Hello everyone, we're back with our next In Conversation, our third in the series, and today we're joined by Exeter City Futures. We have two representatives here and I'd like them to introduce themselves and tell me a bit more about their business and their charity and how people can be involved. Over to you, Andrew.
Hi, so I'm Andrew Hardwick. I'm the Managing Director of Exeter City Futures. Been in role for just over 3 months, which has been a brilliant experience and a bit of a whirlwind. And I'll just really let Annabelle introduce herself too.
Yeah, so I'm Annabelle Toogood. I've recently joined Exeter City Futures just about 3 weeks ago now. I actually did an internship about 3 months ago as well for 3 weeks. My role is Policy and Project Officer.
Oh, brilliant. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
So can either of you tell me the background of how it's been set up with Exeter City Futures and what your main aims are for the city?
Yeah, so I can context that. So Exeter City Futures, by definition, is a community interest company. And as such, we have a really clear role in the city. It's basically working with everyone. So every type of stakeholder you can imagine, whether that's an individual resident, whether it's a community or a business or a city organisation and the leadership within the city. And basically it's to work together collaboratively. Our mission would be to work together collaboratively to help Exeter ultimately achieve its carbon neutral ambitions by 2030. So that's the sort of headline of why we're here and what we do.
That's brilliant. And how long has it been going for?
It's coming up for 5 years in terms of since it was first formed. And obviously it's gone on quite a journey. It's gone from, a very small, innovative startup in essence, really. And lots of its work to date has been around really focusing on how do you engage. It's clearly a complex problem. And when you're talking of a citywide solution, there is an awful lot to unpick within that. So much of the approach to date has been really about engagement, creating conversation, going out, whether that's with businesses or individuals or communities again, and really saying, how can we help? And this is where we want to take you, and where are you at with that, and what the challenge is. And then through that engagement process, starting to form really good collaborative relationships, networks, partnerships that you can then use to actually start delivering projects or initiatives basically that benefit everyone, ultimately the whole city.
Oh, that's brilliant. It sounds fascinating. I mean, I've only been in post since March, so I'm still quite new to the city. So getting to know everyone, it's a jungle out there with everyone involved. But having one of the first networking things I did was a Zoom call with Exeter City Futures and the retail crisis that happened with the COVID lockdown, which was absolutely fascinating, really well run. But it showed all the different people that you engage with, varying from big businesses, leadership, down to the community. I'm not saying communities down there, but a wide spectrum of people and a constant engagement. What further projects have you been up to? Annabelle, have you got any that are in the pipeline you can talk about?
Yeah, so one that we had our initial meeting on the other day is a tree canopy project. So there was a community builder within a village, I think it was in Exeter actually, and I think so a community came to her and said, we'd like to increase our tree cover in Exeter. So as a community builder, she came to us and said, how can I do this? So we put on a meeting and brought together relevant people from Tree Economics, from Woodland Trust, Exeter City Council, so the tree manager at Exeter City Council, and kind of started to pull this project together to show her what she can do. So the next steps is that I'll go away and create a project scoping document so that highlights the objectives, how she's going to do this, the activities, the timeframes, the resources that she'll need, the funding opportunities, and then give that to her, and then she'll take that to her working group and hopefully deliver this project.
Oh, that's brilliant. So to aim to plant more trees to make it a greener place.
Yes, which then ticks off one of our objectives, or helps us with one of our objectives, which is to increase Exeter's tree canopy by a quarter by 2018.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, not long to go.
Well, sorry, 2018 levels, not by 2018.
Yeah, I was thinking, no, that's really good. So people can come to you with their ideas of how to make it a greener city and how to be carbon zero by 2030. Is that the main date that you want to get to?
That's the goal, yeah.
So how else can we combat, like transport, for example? Quite a lot of, obviously, COVID's hit us and everyone's in their own individual cars and buses are down on capacity as well as trains. Where do you see Exeter City Futures helping with the transport situation? Have you got any partners?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're doing a tremendous amount of work on transport. It's one of the, mobility and people movement. There's lots of different words for broadly the same thing. What I've come to appreciate pretty quickly is most things interlink. So to your point that you attended the retail roundtable, that was actually my first week, ironically, and I was on that. But there's a big theme, and one of the big next steps that came out of the retail roundtable, which was brilliant, was actually transport and its impact, and where are people moving and how are people shopping. So yeah, we partner. On our board alone, we have Exeter City Council and Devon County Council, who obviously are big sort of owners and managers of the road network. Yeah. And again, trying to make sure there's a very joined up approach, and that anything that's done, we not only capture the temporary measures that are COVID linked and the impact, the benefit of that, but also what else can be done. And similarly, we've been involved in lots of the recovery themes across the city. And again, transport, to your point, comes up in all of them. I think every organisation is working around how do we use our office space? How do we use our land? What we've always done feels very different, not only here and now, but even in the medium and long-term views. There's an awful lot of that's going to remain true, and it's, for climate-wise, could be a real benefit. But also there's a whole number of things for everyone of those organisations to unpick around, well, what does that mean for how we use our space? Is it hot desking? Is it a drop-in centre one day a week? How often, actually do all of the car parking we had become less necessary because at any given one time? So yeah, I think to your point is we've got a number of things we're currently working on. One that's probably worth mentioning is the customer travel survey that we're currently conducting across the city. And that's basically almost the next step from the retail roundtable. And what it's designed to do is we're essentially facilitating a citywide survey of retailers. And that's from, a true small independent trader through to Tesco and John Lewis are involved. So, you've got the full scale of organisation type within that. And it's basically designed to help us give live insight to what is happening in the city. So how are people moving? What mode of transport are they using? What is their motive for the reason they're travelling? How much are they spending? So it's in its early stages at this stage. We're going to do it at different intervals. But I think actually being able to map that, it will really help build a live picture of what's happening post-COVID. I don't know if you call it that really, because we're still very much in it. It will evidence what behaviour changes is occurring. And also that will help inform what decisions need to be made in terms of walking or cycling infrastructure or bus lanes, which again we'll share not only with the city, but that will feed directly into Devon County Council, for example, which will help make their future decisions on the city infrastructure as relevant and as targeted as it can be. So pretty exciting.
That sounds great. I mean, I think you've had one trial of it so far, haven't you, with the retail survey? When will the next bit be? Because it'd be quite good to get even more people helping you. If this data is so reliable and important for the future of transport, retail, the city in general, how can businesses be involved?
So that's a great question. How it started is we did an initial small pilot, if you like, with us just to work what works, what doesn't, what's relevant, because you obviously don't want to make it too onerous either, because all of those individuals and their businesses have probably more unique challenges than ever before. So we're very conscious and mindful of that. And then you're right, we've run a sort of wider initiative that sort of, spans the whole city, neighbourhoods, suburbs, the high street. But it is something we're going to keep revisiting. So I think we want to make this real clear picture of what's happening as the season changes, and God forbid, whatever happens with the virus and a second spike or not, no one knows what's going to happen. And also, I'm an ex-retailer. My last 10 years were spent at Tesco. So I sort of very much have a retailer's head on still, because that's my immediate background. And I'm also mindful of the story of you're almost coming into this golden run at the minute of what would traditionally be a golden run for retail in the year, the build up to Christmas. You've got Halloween, you've got bonfire night, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, all of these sort of big events. So we are going to do them regularly. We are just planning now when we do the next one, because again, we're trying to watch what's happening in terms of in the actual working environment and COVID, and also then being very mindful of what we're asking those organisations to do. If people want to get involved though, it's more than able to, in terms of we're very prevalent on social media. You can find us, come to our website, you can contact us direct around that. And again, whether that's for any project or specifically the retail project, we'll more than welcome members. And what we can see is our network is growing more and more and more each time we do it, which is really encouraging.
Yeah, that's really good. It's really positive that you're getting this, and data I find is crucial right now. Since this year, I mean, people have been interested in data for donkeys, but I think this year it has been like I monitor the footfall in the city centre, and people are quite keen to know what those figures are, the car parking levels, but also spend. I personally, from our InExeter point of view, we don't have an idea of people what their basket size is, for example, but I've heard from different retailers that the basket size has gone up, but their footfall may have decreased. So people are coming out and spending with a purpose, and actually spending a little bit more because maybe they're uncertain of when they can come back out again, or they haven't been out for a long time that they want to treat themselves. So it's a funny time to collect data, but it's more valuable than ever right now, I think. So yeah, it's exciting with my data hat on. It's quite good fun. Annabelle, what other projects have you got going on at the moment?
So one linked to transport actually is we're looking at, it's not a project that's happening at the moment. This is a project that we're thinking of. It's a e-cargo delivery network. So it's for small businesses in Exeter. And so obviously they'll be using this e-cargo system, and they will go through all the businesses and then deliver to homes in Exeter. So at the moment, what I'm doing is just, like I said with the other one, is scoping up that project, what it would look like. Then ideally, what we're hoping to do is showcase all these project ideas on our website, and then hopefully they'll gain interest.
You know about co-cars, do you, in the city centre? So you're going to be working with co-delivery?
Yeah, well, maybe, because they don't do e-cargo bikes. I think they just do e-bikes, don't they?
But for hire, yeah. They've recently, they purchased the Escargo business that was in Exeter previously, and they have people who do their own deliveries now, so it might be worthwhile having a conversation with them.
That's
great.
So
I know that the bakery down on the quay supplies the bread to Chandos, and they get it delivered by their big e-cargo bikes, which is bright orange thing that goes around town. So have a chat with them. It'd be worthwhile and Helen, who's the marketing manager, she was on the In Conversation a couple of weeks ago. So drop her a line. I'm sure she'd be more than happy to have a chat with you.
Brilliant, thank you.
So yeah. It's again, hyper-local is another sort of trending word at the moment. It's trying to keep everything local, so you're supporting local, but which also cuts down on the carbon emissions. So makes it even one step closer towards our net zero for 2030, doesn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, that's always been somewhere in the background, the sort of ideally sort of a more localized economy. I think the pandemic impacts really brought that home in terms of the disruption that lots of people have experienced to supply chains, particularly internationally based supply chains. I think you'll definitely see, I'm already having lots more conversations around that now, around how do we make ourselves more resilient. And generally the answer of that is having it closer to home, isn't it? Or closer to your base site, which again, in terms of with a net zero element, is very, very good news, because it's less miles, less travel, less carbon, which ultimately is sort of a win-win situation. There's another project we're working on that links directly to that, interestingly. So the Southwest Food Hub is another community interest company. They're supported by the Heart of the Southwest, LEP, Exeter Uni, us, we're partnering with them, and the National Farmers Union. And that's basically about trying to prepare the region for a high-tech procurement platform. And it's going to be trialled in the Southwest, but it's basically around aligning the region's food networks locally to public sector purchasers.
Oh, brilliant.
So that you essentially get a more sustainable supply chain that's coming directly from the West Country. So it's another project that we're working on. It isn't ours, it's something we're partnering with, but ties into exactly what you're talking around how lots of people are thinking that way, around how do we safeguard ourselves to be more resilient, but also weaving in a net zero outcome. So there's some lots of brilliant stuff happening around.
It's so much more than I realised. I mean, as well as the COVID, obviously we have got the exit from the European Union coming ahead. So that's another great way of supporting our farmers by increasing the supply chain to the local places, rather than having us going abroad and just realising what we have on our doorstep. I think I have seen a similar project in Kent, actually. It's called Produced in Kent, where they've got this brilliant dashboard of all the local suppliers and all the businesses that use that supplier. So, I mean, I think it's lovely that they're sort of shouting and screaming about what's available in their place. And I can see that sort of having a mirror image for the one you're talking about, Southwest Food Hub. I think it'd be really good. And getting even from the smallest people to be part of it to larger chains that usually supply supermarkets will be a great idea. And again, I suppose it comes down to seasons, again, where you've got to think about what's actually in season for food. Maybe we need to realign people and consumers about what's available in the autumn, in the spring, and change towards that. And that's probably quite a nice way to go from it. Yeah, that sounds fascinating.
And I think a lot, again, and the COVID impact has been obviously horrible in lots of ways, hasn't it? I think it's caused, so much loss and suffering in pretty much any way you look at it, whether it's financial, whether it's business disruption, whether it's personal and, relationships and human connection, whichever way you look at it, it's been incredibly sort of challenging and disruptive. The silver lining to it, though, is that I think we have had this national ability to sort of slow down a little bit, particularly when lockdown was on. There was that moment of people pausing, reflection, lots of taking stock. And I think there was an element where people saw a glimmer of what could be, in terms of, actually, I like my kids being out on the street and playing safely, because there's, not lots of cars whizzing around, or I've gone for a nice walk and it was peaceful and tranquil and the air feels cleaner. And, there's been lots of stories shared across the media around deers running around London and, snails clearing and dolphins. And I think there is an opportunity. I think what that does show is, the response to that big changes can happen, and actually can happen pretty quickly. So that should give us encouragement and confidence for the future. And also, I think it's making people much more mindful around all of those areas we've just talked about, really.
Here's Linda, she's joined in. No, but I agree with you. There were stories about wildlife coming into the city centres just because there was no one around, no traffic, no disruption. And I think people really enjoyed it, and just sort of being at peace. It sounds a bit hippie, but at one with nature, because they had to stop, people had to slow down and appreciate what was there on their doorstep, what they could do in their own communities. and just people who were working from home could realise what was on their doorstep, rather than thinking, oh, I've got to get the 7:52 train from X to Y to make sure I'm on time, and completely blinkered. They could actually reconnect with where they live. And I think quite a few people have fallen back in love with where they live and why they've chosen that place. And hopefully we can still keep that going, even though the momentum of working has slowly picked up. We just really need to remind people going, you can do your bit for where you live, and remember where you are. And yeah, we've got through the worst of it, hopefully, touch woods. But we need to remember I don't want to go back to what it was before. I think we've all managed to adapt new ways, and positive new ways, and we need to encourage people to join us, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think also, certainly since I've been in role, I've had lots and lots of conversations, lots of introductory, which has been brilliant. I've met so many sort of interesting and fascinating people, and what comes up all the time in terms of the outcomes is lots of similar themes. So more so than ever, the need to collaborate better. Now, whether that's individually as people, or whether that's organisations, but collaboration comes up literally every time, over and over again. Innovation and responsiveness comes up more and more again. And I think, again, with an Exeter City Futures hat on, I think that's very encouraging, because it's all the things that we want to embody, and we want to encourage about joint action and shared solutions, and how do we fix this problem in the best way. So again, hopefully that will be another sort of positive that comes from what's been a very challenging year, really. But
yeah, definitely. Linda, hello. Thank you for joining us. I don't know if you want to say hello and introduce yourself at all.
So I've just turned up and been eating my sandwiches, so sorry about that.
But this is what it's been like nowadays, isn't it? It's like having those Zoom conferences call with your husband that walks past, or your toddler that's screaming in the background going, "Mummy, there's a dinosaur!" And it's just a normal way. So yeah, we talked earlier about the retail survey, and it'd be great to try and keep that going for the next round, try and encourage more businesses to be part of it, and get to share that data. I think it'd be really useful for new businesses in the city centre as well to be part of that. So I'm more than happy to share that with all our members again, and sort of encourage people to take part of it next time.
Yeah, actually I've just been talking about that this morning, because the initial kind of eyes we've had on their responses is really insightful as to what it's telling us about how customers are actually travelling to retail and city, and from where and how far and by what mode. So yeah, it looks really, really exciting. And actually, what's been really interesting is the far reaches of this survey, how much it could impact in the city. So initially we're talking about retail, and we're talking about how customers travel, and how perhaps we can understand better. Now there are new ways that people are being encouraged to walk and cycle more, make new choices about how they use their car. And we're talking then about how that can help the councils influence the council's decisions in terms of what the infrastructure might now look like in the future. But actually, it's starting to kind of we're starting to see the influence that this could have, or the impact this could have on other decisions in the city or other behaviours in the city as well. Which reach far beyond retail, how it might affect people's health, how it might affect the economy in the city, how it might affect how people feel about where they live as well, and how much and what Exeter makes of this opportunity as well. So it's really interesting, actually. What started out just with a very keen focus on retail and customer behaviour, the impact that this could have. So yeah, it'd be great to have more people involved, more retailers taking part. We've got some work to do, I think, on the group that's come together to put the retail survey together about how we can support more retailers to take part in it. We can appreciate it's a really, really busy time for people to be providing more information to somebody. So yeah, we've got a bit of work to do around that, but otherwise, yes, please, anybody who's interested, wants to know more, it'd be great if they just want to come and talk to us here at Exeter City Futures.
Well, I think it'd be really useful if I'll share all your details when we post this, and obviously through our network. But I was just saying earlier, we've got quite a few new businesses joining us. Some quite ethically minded, like Brewdog. Behind their scenes, they've got quite a good way of, they plant trees when everyone buys a keg of beer. I think it's quite nice if we could show them what you guys are working on, and if they can be part of it too with their ethos. I think it would marry up quite nicely. So yeah, I'm more than happy to try and put people in contact with you if you're, and just get people to know more about you. That's why I sort of wanted to do this in conversation, is because I've picked up bits here and there since, you know, starting in March, but actually getting your message out to everyone is quite hard because everyone's so busy, and you're like, oh, you need to read up on this. But if we have these little snippets, and then I can direct people and keep highlighting the good work that you're, and the knowledge that you're going to get to have an effect on the whole city and the county by 2030, I think it's going to be superb. So yeah, I'm more than happy to help.
Oh, fantastic. I don't know whether you've spoken, Andrew, about the Slack channel that we're trying to get up and running. Actually, it's really early days.
I'll let you describe it, Linda.
Yeah, so you've led in quite nicely, Emily. What we are trying to do is actually bring those conversations out and help highlight in the city what people are actually working on, where they might need input, where they might want to get involved, the benefits of being involved as well in the city's journey towards net zero. And as you said, 2030 is the goal. It's incredibly ambitious, and there's just so much going on. It's really exciting. So we're trialing a Slack channel. I know not everybody uses Slack, but it's really, really straightforward platform to use. Just a messaging platform which allows people to really easily find out about what is going on, interact with others, get involved in projects, bring their projects out as well in the conversation that's taking place. And we're hoping that by doing that, then we can start to, and others can start to bring about some peer-to-peer support, but also help us all identify what other resources are out there, what other people are out there, and what this might mean for the city. So we're actively now engaging in that conversation, bringing people together. We're reaching out into various parts of the city through communities and businesses, through the local authorities, and just bringing them into this one space, which even just as a thought of doing that, you know, in what other place at the moment can you just tap somebody else on the shoulder who's a business when you're in a community organisation, or, you know, might work in a council when you're, you know, a resident. I don't know. It's just, it's, you know, obviously built around the purpose of helping the city meet its 2030 net zero goal. So yeah, again, another exciting development we're hoping for Exeter.
Would it be okay for me to share that link to that Slack then for businesses to be part of?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I will send you the link, Emily, so you can share it with us as well.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That half an hour's just gone, that Zoom passed. I really appreciate all your time, and thank you so much. It's the largest crowd I've had so far on an in conversation, but we'll save that.
Thanks for having us. We're delighted to be involved, really. So thanks for having us on. Oh,
it's a pleasure, and I will. I'll keep you informed with everything else I'm going on. We'll share all your details when we share the recording. But thank you very much for coming on.